Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So today I'm starting a new project. We're actually doing trim work for an entire house. A customer reached out to me with a new construction project and he wanted to do some custom windows and doors along with some baseboard molding. So we worked back and forth a little bit and came up with a design he was happy with, and he sent me all the specs he needed, and today we're gonna turn it into a reality. So what we got here, he's got a nice 5-inch baseboard with a base cap. That's actually what we're going to do first. That's going to be the first part of this video. I'm actually going to break it into two parts because otherwise it'll probably get too long. And the second part is going to be doing the windows and doors. So we're starting. This is what he sent me as far as a guide of what he wanted it to look like, with a whole sheet of paper of dimensions here. And this stuff is all poplar. That was what he chose to use. And it's a nice craftsman style. You can see there's a lot of detail here. I have this all mocked up for you, so you can get a visual of what we're shooting for. I actually had, it was so big, these windows are so big I had to lay down a sheet of plywood on the workbench here to be able to mock this up. But a lot of parts in this order. We've got an apron, the window sill. Now obviously when this is installed, this is going to be notched and set into a window jamb, so it's not going to stick out way far like this. But for mock-up purposes here, just to give you an idea, I just set it in there. And then you've got your legs or stiles, a fillet strip, a freeze board, crown molding, and a cap. So this is pretty involved. It's more involved than your standard, just casing 45-degree miter around a door. But this is the kind of work I do. I can do that standard molding and send it out as straight runs, but I can also do this custom work and do the more intricate stuff. So this is what we're shooting for. This will be our project over the next two videos. Like I said, this video here, we're going to focus on the baseboard. I'll show you that from start to finish. And then in part 2 of this video, we're going to tackle the doors and windows. So we've got quite a bit of work to do here, lots of parts and pieces. It actually breaks down into the hundreds of parts and pieces till you figure all the doors and windows and all the components for each. So let's get to work. Okay, so we're down in the lumber building. This is where most of the millwork and flooring orders start. Everything in this building is kiln dried and it's ready to go, ready to be machined and do whatever we're making. So I have a stack of poplar pulled out here. This stuff's 12 foot long. The first thing I'm doing in this order is the baseboard and base cap. That's the most straightforward part of this order, so I'm going to get that knocked out first. And I'd like to use longer stuff for baseboard just because, it makes longer lengths along your walls. You don't have as many joints, so it tends to work out better to use your longer stuff for the baseboard. So what I have to do here, everything I store basically, unless it's cut specifically for an order, is random width. So now I got to go through this stack and I got to measure these boards and sort through it to get the best use out of the wood. So in this particular case, I'm cutting a 5-inch baseboard, and what I'll do, I want an 1/8 inch on either side, so when it goes through the molder, it'll clean up to a perfect 5-inch. It gives the molder some room to take off a little on each side. So I'll do an 1/8 on each side. So for a 5-inch baseboard, I'm actually shooting for 5 1/4 inch blank size. So I'll sort through this. I'll pick out my 5 1/4 inch pieces. They'll run through the edger. Actually, they'll be a little bit wider than 5 1/4. I'll run them through the edger to a perfect 5 1/4. Then we'll take them up, pre-plane them on one face just to make sure everything's dead even going through the molder. That's how you get the best product. You're not hogging away as much material off the molder. It's pre-planed that the molder's taking a lighter cut, gives you a nicer finish. So it'll go from here to the edger to the molder, or edger to the planer to the molder. Sorry about that. And I'm also going to be cutting 1-inch base cap, which is nice because all those little 1-inch strips gives me a lot of flexibility when I'm sorting through this. If I have, let's say, a 7-inch piece, I can do my 5 1/4 baseboard and my 1-inch base cap, and I have enough room to cut them to size. So I have some flexibility. Along with that, I'm making some 3-inch casing, some 2 1/4-inch crown molding, and some other odds and ends pieces. So I have a lot of flexibility. This is a nice job as far as that, because I'll be able to really utilize this lumber to its best use and not have a lot of cutoffs. So I'm going to start sorting through this. I'm sure that's like watching paint dry. So I'm going to set up a sweet little montage for you guys, and you can just watch me sort and edge and plane, and we'll bring you back for the molder. So I'm going to find a spot to set you on my forklift here, which also doubles as a desk. Just totally ignore that. That doesn't apply to you. As a side note, I don't know how old this forklift is, but it's decently old. You ever wonder, I think like this, you know, when this thing was built, could anybody have fathomed that some idiot would be standing with a camera pointed in his face talking to himself, looking for a spot to magnetically mount a camera on this forklift? The guys on that assembly line would have lost their minds if you would have tried to explain that to them. But that's just me rambling. That's the way I think sometimes. It's crazy, technology and the things we get ourselves into. But anyway, I'm going to start sorting wood, and I'll bring you back up at the shop. Okay, so we got our blanks pre-sized. The one thing I didn't mention before we started here, these base cap blanks have to be 1.25 inches. I can't run that thin on the edger. It only goes down to about 3 inches. So I had to bring it up here to the straight line rip saw to get that thin dimension on them. So these are ready to go. They're ready to go through the molder. I have the molder set up here for this base cap. I have the 2 side heads in. It's going to plane top and bottom. So it's going to go in as that square blank, and when it comes out, that's what it's going to look like. Now this is the smallest molding we're running on this particular order. This is actually going to be the most difficult. The reason why these small moldings are usually pretty tricky, because if you can see there, we're going to be taking a pretty heavy cut to get that shaped, to get that small top part. And so you're taking a heavy cut on a small piece. Chatter is an issue. And the other thing with this profile in particular, this really small top piece, when it goes through the machine at the end, this is the only thing left to catch the feed rolls and pull it through. So sometimes you have some feeding issues just because there's not much material there left to pull it through. So I have extra blanks here. I am figuring I'm going to lose some on this just for one defect or another. Unfortunately, that's just part of it. With profiles like this, it just, nothing is ever perfect. So you always have to figure in a few extra. Some of these other profiles you're going to see coming up, they're a lot more forgiving, but this one's a little bit tough, even though, like I said, it is the smallest one in here. That's actually the reason why it becomes a little bit more difficult. So the one thing about that is if you mess one up, you're messing up a 1x1 strip, not a nice board. So it's not the end of the world. So we'll get this thing running. We'll run this base cap and then we'll switch over to baseboard. Okay, so I just finished up the base cap, got that all done. It actually went really well, ended up with extra pieces, so it went through real nice, better than I expected. That's some walnut flooring. That's another job unrelated to this. That's just waiting to go out the door there. But I have it all banded up, cut to length, so that's real nice. Threw in a little bit extra there, so that should work really well. So the next thing we're gonna do, I have my baseboard blanks here set up same way. So we got to set the machine up. We got to change it over for baseboard. So this side cutter is going to change. This cutter is going to change. We're going to put a back relief in the bottom cutter. And I have all my parts and pieces laid out here to do that. But I'm going to let you guys in on a little secret. When you start filming YouTube videos, you get a superpower. And that superpower is a snap trick. So I could show you every little bit of unbolting this and rebolting it, but you don't care about that. So we're gonna do it this way. Hey, that worked pretty good. So anyway, we got this widened out to 5 inches. We got the knives changed around. It's ready for baseboard. The only thing I have to do yet is lube up the bed with some paste wax. It's pretty important to keep it lubed up so the material goes through easy. So I'm gonna grab my paste wax. You guys don't keep your paste wax in an old dust collection fitting. Actually, what happened is I had just changed around the machinery in this shop not too long ago, and I needed something to block off that opening because I changed around the dust collection. It just so happens an old Johnson paste wax tin is the perfect fit. So that's your pro tip for the day. If you happen to have a 5-inch dust collection hole you need capped, find yourself an old can of Johnson paste wax. But anyway, we'll get some wax on here and we'll start running some baseboard. right, here's our finished two-piece baseboard. You can see the base has a real nice eased edge on it, and the bottom side is cut on a bevel. So when you stand it up against the wall, it sits down tight against the floor, and the base cap will sit right on top, and that's going to make a really nice baseboard. So we have that all done. It's all banded up, cut to length, ready to go. So that'll be it for this video. This was part 1. In part 2, we're going to talk about the doors and windows. There'll be a lot more parts and pieces for that. So stick around for part 2, and I'll catch you then.